Hi and good afternoon. We are ready to start today's event. And on behalf of HC Andersen Capital, I would like to welcome you all to this event with the presentation of the 2021 annual report from Aquaporin. My name is Rasmus Køjborg, and with us today we have CEO, that's Mats Bukowski, and we have CFO Bo Karmark to take us through the numbers and sort of recent highlights. So a warm welcome to you guys.
Thank you very much.
And also a warm welcome to all of those who signed up for today's presentation and listening in. As usual, you can ask questions in the right lower corner in the chats, and we'll take these through the presentation or at the end. And you're welcome to write in Danish if you're not comfortable in English, and we'll do the translation. But that, I'll leave it to you, Matt and Bo. Please go ahead.
Sounds good. Thank you. So again, thank you very much, and thank you for having us here. Let's here we go through slides. All right. So what we're going to cover with you today is provide some highlights from 2021 with respect to the annual report that we just released. We're going to review some of the business areas and provide some additional information on each one of them. Talk a bit about R&D, do a quick financial review, and then go into the 2022 outlook. And of course, this is followed by a Q&A session, but as was just introduced, if you have questions, you can, I think you can go and ask us throughout. So let's start with the highlights. I think 2021 for us was we see it as a very successful year. We had a really strong commercial traction, especially in Q4, where we've seen a lot of orders coming in. Of course, a few orders being pushed out, which, as you know, we reviewed our guidance in November, and it's been really, it's been a very busy quarter for us, despite having some supply chain disruptions. But overall, our product sales grew by 229%. So that means that we had a revenue from products of 8.9 million in 2021 compared to 2.7 in 2020. What is really interesting about this is that 100% of this revenue is attributable to product sales. This is different from previous years, where in some of the previous years we had milestone payments related to R&D efforts. And I think this is really highlighting that we are generating interest for biomimetic products in the market. People are curious as to what we can produce from our Aquaporin Inside platform, and we are seeing this traction picking up. Even though the majority of the sales came from drinking water at about 70%, we see really strong interest in the three areas that we decided to focus on. So just to remind them, these are food and beverage, industrial water, as well as drinking water. So this is some of the successes that we've had. We'll cover them in the next sections, but we're seeing interest in applications and pilots and so on. I think also we cannot, for in 20, it would be a mistake not to mention the IPO that we had in 2021, which really laid out the foundation for Aquaporin. So 250 million of proceeds went directly to the company to really fuel our growth, both in terms of commercialization, but also research and development. We introduced more biomimetic products to the market than ever before, and we made a significant organizational shift towards a commercial focus. And what this means is not only do we hire employees in commercial functions like sales, marketing, and commercial engineering, but we also have shifted some employees from product development, research and development to more commercial functions as we grow. We've developed a clear strategic roadmap on how we want to grow, where we want to grow, what products we want to introduce, and what key accounts we want to focus after. And so what we are doing in 2022 is really a clear execution of this strategy, which we want to accelerate as much as possible. On the R&D side, we had two successful patent filings. One was with respect to hollow fiber membranes, and another one was with regards to the Aquaporin protein itself. So we are continuing, of course, to keep innovating on our core technology and our membrane products. We are also looking at the next generation of our formulation that will allow us to have more performing membranes. So what this means is we will have the same kind of rejection that we have today, so rejecting the same kind of viruses, bacteria, and things, but be able to process more water through these membranes. And we're also looking at some innovative developments. So for instance, here we have we looked at the substitution of membrane chemicals with green alternatives, and we have a few other things that we're looking at through open innovation as well, which is a new department that we kicked off at the beginning of 2022. Very quickly, some of our key financial results for 2021. We had revenue of 8.9 million Danish kroner in a guidance that we communicated in November as being 6 to 10. EBITDA was a loss of 74.8, and EBIT was a loss of 93.7, both within the range that was originally communicated. Now going into a bit more detail into our three key business areas. Drinking water has contributed to 6.4 million of that 8.9. So clearly it's our main contributor. This is also in line with our strategy with how we want to grow key accounts in drinking water. One of the reasons as well that we are focusing so much on drinking water is that it's one of the areas where we can grow our Aquaporin Inside brand because we are touching directly the end consumer. So there's really it's a twofold reason. One is for brand recognition and brand growth that we can then leverage in our other segments. But the other one is also that it's a mature and established market. I mean, drinking water is by 2024 is going to be close to I believe 130, 140 billion Danish kroner market, which is really a huge sort of a huge market for us to just get a small percentage from. Our strategy was centered around key accounts, and here in the key wins, you see two of those key accounts that are contributing to our top line. The first one is with Vestel, where we sold 2,500 zero purifiers. Vestel is a large Turkish conglomerate that distributes electronics and appliances to Turkey, but also outside of Turkey. So having this win with a company like Vestel is really a significant win for us, and we hope to grow that to further products in the future. Then with AquaShield, AquaShield is a partner of the health technology company called Philips, and they're manufacturing their water solutions. And with them, we have had a significant win that will provide more than 10,000 purifiers with Aquaporin Inside. And that is something that we also hope to continue in the future with this company. So again, it shows you that our strategy of establishing key accounts is really paying off and taking shape. We had a successful sale of 40,000 elements to Geisa. In addition, we also are in advanced dialogues with some other companies in India and also in the United States to provide purifiers and the Aquaporin Inside technology. In the near-term focus, we want to continue expanding our key account strategy. This is really how we're going to grow in drinking water. We're not looking at the market through a geographical lens. We really look at it at where are the key accounts that share our values and accounts that can benefit from the Aquaporin Inside co-branding strategy that is then a win-win for both us and for them as a way to differentiate themselves and to go get a premium price in the market. We're adding commercial resources. We've added a few people in 2021. We're planning on adding a couple more targeting drinking water and our other segments as well. And we're going to be introducing new products as well in line with market trends and customer demands for point-of-use filtration systems. This could be a tabletop purifier, for example, but it is also our kitchen unit, which we have briefly introduced last year. And it's a unit for which we have received our first prototype, and we are evaluating the prototype today. We are inviting customers to look at it, to tell us what to change, what to upgrade, what to modify, and we hope to have the product finalized by the end of this year. Now moving to industrial water, just to remind everybody what we do in industrial water, because it's a fairly broad industry. In industrial water, we treat wastewater, where we extract clean water from waste streams, and we leave the contaminated, concentrated waste behind, so that it can be either evaporated or so that it can be discarded in a more environmentally friendly way. This can have different types of applications. So for instance, in the textile industry, the value proposition is reducing the load on evaporators, which means that we save energy. In the digestate industry, it can be actually enabling the biogas industry by having a solution for what to do with the digestate after, for how to treat their waste. Our key wins in industrial water are our B-leaf container. This is an energy efficient container for wastewater treatment. In this particular case, it's treating leachate. Leachate is really the water that leaches out, or the liquid that leaches out of garbage and waste transfer stations in China. So we're able to collect that, decrease its footprint on the environment, concentrate the waste in the leachate, extract the water so it can be discarded in an environmentally safe way, and then treat that waste fraction in a different way. So that's something that we won in 2021, and it's a project that we're executing in 2022. Again, this is a pilot, but it's one of those pilots that, if it proves successful, there's many other applications of its kind in China and outside of China. We've also had we've also successfully converted a pilot in forward osmosis into a full-scale project. What's interesting here is that this full-scale project is one that can be repeated many times. And again, it's going to depend on how well this first full-time size project is executed. How well does it deliver the value to the customer? Is it the same as they've seen in the pilot? And of course, as you scale up from a pilot to a larger installation, it's not always linear. And so we are very carefully working with the contractor who's delivering the project to make sure that our technology performs as expected. We've launched the clear brackish water reverse osmosis membranes. These are membranes that use our Aquaporin Insight technology to provide a slightly better flow, so it translates into energy savings. And this is specifically targeting at low energy applications. So it's been launched towards the end of 2021. And in 2022, we are staffing with an additional sales resource that is going to be in charge of commercializing this product line for us. We also, one of the decisions that we made in our strategic exercise is to continue narrowing down the focus in industrial water. And we narrowed it down very much to the digestate and farm waste treatment into industrial water. This is where we want to continue focusing with a lot of attention. This is really driven by the biogas market and also the current energy discussions that are happening in Europe, especially given the situation in Russia. So we do see this as a market that is going to be quite active. And I think we have a nice solution in there to enable farms and to enable energy companies to produce biogas from waste. In the near term, we want to develop system solutions. I think one of the things that we're noticing is that to get closer to customers, we need to have systems. And we would like to look at both organic and inorganic ways to get into a systems play. Let me move to food and beverage here. Just I want to make sure we have some time for questions at the end. So in food and beverage, we didn't have as much revenue as in the other segments, but it doesn't mean that we weren't as active. What we are doing in food and beverage is looking at a number of different applications so that we can test applications that are the most successful for us. And we can then go from an application test to a pilot to then a full-size project. And the areas that we're focusing on in food and beverage are around flavors. Then this is going to be followed by juices, coffee. And again, two value proposition. One is energy savings, and the other one is the creation of new products or alternative ways to create the same products, but with better flavor profiles. Now, a quick overview of our research and development activity. For Aquaporin, R&D consists of three areas: deep tech, open innovation, and commercial engineering. Deep tech is where we develop new generation of our existing platform, the Aquaporin Insight membrane. It's slightly shorter term, and this is where we want to work with co-creating or joint development agreements with our contract manufacturers, where we want to develop new CMOs, where we want to develop new generations of our current membranes. And so this could translate, for instance, in progress in drinking water, so that we can get to a more performing membrane. Same in forward osmosis. We would like to get to a membrane that is able to reject, to have a high rejection rate, which allows us to operate in areas where we are unable to target today. In open innovation, this is something that we kicked off at the beginning of 2022. It is led by our founder, Peter Holm Jensen. And the reason for creating open innovation is to really reignite what Aquaporin had already done extremely well. I think over 12 or 13 years, Aquaporin raised more than 50 million euros through open innovation in different types of sponsorships and funds. And I think this really shows how we're able to do this really, really well. And so we want to continue this type of collaborations through public and private partnerships, do technology scouting, working with universities, and arrive to new solutions, perhaps new uses for the aquaporin protein, or perhaps areas like machine learning or developing recyclable membranes in the future, which is, our customers would love if we were able to develop something like that. Commercial engineering is an evolution for us. It's something that we've had with a few people that were in product development previously have transitioned to commercial engineering, where we do both product development and application engineering. This means that we are getting closer and closer to the customer. So the way this works is we have a customer that has a certain challenge. We're able to offer them a solution with our current products. If our current products cannot meet a certain solution, we're able to try to figure out how could we do this in the future if it's a market that is worth pursuing. So a slight change from what you would normally see in R&D. Commercial engineering is typically in a sort of like a technical sales or engineering function. For us, it's still under the R&D department because it's really an evolution that we're doing from product development to commercial engineering, and it's very much a hybrid function. We offer products that we have today through that commercial engineering arm, but we also develop products for future use in different applications. On the income statement, I'll go through this quickly. Again, it's on revenue, we've increased by 62% to a top line of 8.9 million. 2021, as I mentioned before, was the first time where 100% of the revenue is attributable to product sales. In terms of comparing us to what was the level of sales in 2021, that's a 229% increase. In terms of profit, gross profit amounted to 3.4 million Danish kroner compared to 4.1 in 2020. And the product sales margin in 2021 was 37.8% compared to 47.4%. Our operating costs totaled 97.1 million compared to 89.9 million. EBITDA before special items amounted to a loss of 74.8 million compared to 67.5 million. Special items amounted to a negative 37.3 million, and it's primarily driven by the costs related to the IPO. Earnings for the period amounted to a loss of 131.8 million versus a loss of 123 in 2020. So if you have any specific questions to the income statement or other financials, Bo and I will be able to take them in a few minutes. Now let's get to the outlook. I think for us, in terms of the 2022 outlook, we want to continue focusing on drinking water, food and beverage, and industrial water. We're going to be introducing new products. We want to continue growing the brand. We want to move into systems, and all of that is getting us closer to our aspiration. All of that are things that we are putting in place and that we want to see take off in the market. We're continuing through our key account approach, and with that in mind, we hope we are guiding to 20 and 30 million, between 20 to 30 million in terms of revenue, which is 3 times what we have generated in 2021, or in percentages, it's about 125 to 240% year-over-year increase. EBITDA, we estimate a loss in the range of 90 to 100, and in terms of EBIT, we estimate a loss of 105 to 115 million. So look, I know I went quite faster last slides. I just really wanted to give us a good 10 minutes for a discussion. So I'll stop it here, and Bo and I are we're very happy to take any questions that you and the audience may have. I cannot hear you. No, we heard you for a second, and we still cannot hear you.
So now?
Yeah, we can hear you now. I hope you were able to hear us.
I hear you also, and thank you very much, Matt, for the presentation. I'm very sorry we had some sound issues here again, and apparently we had some in the beginning. So there is some technical issues today. So but they're a little bit out of our hands. But I hope everyone is online and hearing us now. And otherwise, the presentation has already also been recorded with with the whole sound. So that will be available later today if anyone wants to see the beginning again or missed anything. But let's go for some questions, definitely. And there was one here that is sort of, it's probably on most people's mind. That was regarding your business relations with Russia and or Belarus, and also, do you have any sort of direct or indirect implications of the war in Ukraine at the moment? If you could elaborate a bit on that, please.
Yes, absolutely. I think we had one deal with a Russian customer that we actually shipped at the beginning of January, so before the conflict started. And that is something that we've shipped in its entirety. We've collected a partial payment. We expect to be able to collect the remaining payment, and we have an insurance that's been taken out, in case that's impossible. That part of the business, when it comes to water treatment, is actually not under sanction. But despite that, we've taken the decision not to enter into commercial agreements and discussions with customers in Russia until further notice. We, as a company culture, as Aquaporin, we of course don't support and don't align with what is going on, and because of that, we've taken that decision not to transact anymore in that part of the world.
And perhaps a follow up on that: is there sort of any risk to your sort of raw material input or other things that could be affected by sort of the global volatility in these prices, etc.?
Yes, so directly as it relates to Russia, no, because we don't source any material that would be used in our products from that part of the world. But what we're seeing is the impact that this situation has, compounded with COVID. It has stressed the supply chain for really, I think, practically any company. So going forward, we do see a bit of an increase in raw materials, and that is something that we have to deal with. But again, I don't see this being sort of a big issue for the large volume orders that we are looking at with some of the key accounts. I think when we're looking at those small volume products, things that we have to source, let's say maybe we have to, if we have to source new products from our suppliers a few months from now, send some samples here and there, then we might have to increase our prices slightly, but nothing. I don't see anything sort of consequential to our supply chain at the moment.
And as I recall it, around the Q3 report in November last year, you also mentioned there were some specific issues around your supply chain that made it harder for you to deliver on time on some of these things. And in regards to that, could you perhaps also elaborate a little bit on the Vestel order in Turkey? Have you been delivering that one fully, or are you still delivering in 2022?
The Vestel, yeah. So the supply chain does it does actually refer to some of the slippage that we've had with the Vestel order. We were able to pick that up in 2022, and we've delivered some, but not all of them yet. I believe we have one more shipment going to Vestel as part of that 2,500 that we initially prepared for them. I think what's also kind of important to mention on this topic is that when we had opportunities that we thought were high that were going to go into 2021, and I would say a couple of them slipped to 2022, but we haven't realized them yet. So it's not a very straight kind of line that they were going to be in December and they all came in January. Unfortunately, it's not, it doesn't work that way. So some of them are going to be coming in throughout the year. And there's actually one that we decreased from a high probability to a medium probability because we don't have the same kind of level of commitment that we initially had from one particular customer.
Okay, and that also brings us to sort of, there was a question in the beginning on how is your current pipeline, but that's also a little bit reflected in your answer there.
Yeah, this is one particular customer that I was mentioning, but in terms of pipeline, I think we are getting a lot of excitement about our products, and we see this in in the kind of pickup that we've had in sales in Q4, and we see it in our conversations with customers that we have in 2022. And it goes beyond, of course, the announcements that we made. We announced Estelle, we announced Philips Water. We have quite a few, smaller customers that we are speaking with, and then we want to get to larger customers in the future. We're talking to some of the major kitchen manufacturers in Europe as well for our upcoming products towards the end of this year. I think we are talking to some large brands as well, some large names in food and beverage and in industrial water. I cannot mention the names there because of the confidentiality when it comes to forward osmosis types of developments, but we are having application tests and pilots with some customers that we also hope to convert to pilots throughout the year.
Very good, thank you. And there was also one. Is there a risk you will need more cash in the coming years, or are you well funded with the IPO proceeds?
No, we don't need the cash for next year. Of course, as we operate the company, we always look at our cash situation, our sales, our cost, and so on. And so, as part of the regular process that we do in the fall, we're going to evaluate, if we have any needs for any kind of additional funding. But that's the process that we have.
Very good. And there was also a question if you see any potential with your product sort of in the healthcare industry. I don't know if you could touch upon that also, if there's any prospects. Yeah.
I think we can talk about one area, which is hemodialysis, without mentioning, again, names of customers or anything like that. But I do see potential. This is going to actually falling into what we call open innovation. And so in open innovation, we look at other areas where we can use either forward osmosis or perhaps some other applications of the aquaporin protein or aquaporin formulation. And that is really the sector where Peter and the team are focusing on. So in hemodialysis is something that we've been looking at for quite some time. And we are working with a couple of customers to truly understand what are the metrics, what are the targets that we have to achieve. We have a very clear path to what those targets are today. And so it's really a matter of advancing product development and the technology so we can meet those targets. Because it's with the current technology that we have, we know we can get to a certain level of rejection, a certain level of filtration. We need to move a little bit beyond where we are today, and that's why it's in our open innovation department.
Very good. And also in relation to sort of the question we had before, if there were any need for cash in the coming years. As I recall it in your in the IPO during the summer last year, you had these 2024 ambitions. I think it was revenue around 450 million Danish and EBITDA break even. Correct me if I'm wrong on those, but you haven't mentioned anything about those in your 2021 report now. Are they still active, and could you put a bit of words on that?
Yeah, of course. I think for us, the way that we look at the aspiration is something that we're striving to achieve. I put it in the context of the global market, and if you again look at just the drinking water and you think that it's 125 more or less billion kroner by 2024, 2025, we need to get to less than 1% to exceed our aspirations. So in terms of how realistic, how feasible those numbers are, I think just that comparison kind of says that it's an ambition, it's an aspiration, but it's I think it's relatively how can I say it's relatively okay given the broader market that we have. And so we're putting in place the strategy with the key accounts. We're putting in place products. We're putting in place we want to play into systems. And so all of that, we are doing this so we can get to that aspiration. And I think it's also how fast will the branding pick up, and how fast will the key account strategy deliver? How fast can we get into systems? Just to give you a really small example, selling a pilot unit, or a small system can go, for let's say 2 million Danish kroner. Selling membranes to that system is, a tiny fraction of that. And so if we can get into that system play, which is really not if, it's more when, so it's how quickly can we get into that system play that allows us to accelerate at a much different pace than just the sale of membranes. And so, yeah, I think the aspiration is realistic. I think we want to get to that aspiration. But we also, it depends on the rapidity, the pace at which we can execute our strategy.
Very good. Thank you for updating on that part as well. I think we're through most of the questions. There was a suggestion here to do it in Danish at some point also. I don't know how your Danish learning is progressing, Matt, but maybe at some time. But I can also refer to, we did some recording during the IPO last summer, and if people are seeking better understanding of sort of the technology part and those things, I think most of it should still be valid. Of course, you can say some of the numbers might be outdated, etc. But we did those with Peter Holme, so I'll refer to our YouTube channel to see some of these presentations if you want it in Danish.
Perfect, thank you. And yes, my Danish is really not good enough to do any of this in Danish, but I am a minority of a non-Dane in the company, even though we have 21 nationalities. But we can also find, someone that can present a lot of those topics with me in Danish, and so we can absolutely do that in the future. Yes.
We'll look into that. But thank you very much now, Matt and Bo, for the presentation. Thank you very much for those of you who listened in and asked some very good questions. But with that, I'll just say thank you for today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.